Well, it's really strange doing an APCM in October, isn't it, when we normally do it in March or April. And 2019 seems such a long time ago, doesn't it? It seems so last year, you could say. And so much has happened since then, hasn't it? Our lives have been turned around. But I think it's still really important to look back at 2019 and also to stop and look forward to at this time. You might well have picked up and read the 2019 annual review, and it's been lovely having some feedback from different people over these last few days with a range of reactions. Some have just said, "Oh, it's amazing, it almost brought me to tears what God has done through us." And with others, there's been a real amount of sadness actually as they've read it, because it's reminded them of just how much we have lost over this last 6 months. We've not just lost some people since the start of 2019, people who are really dear to us, people who have really been important parts of our church communities. But during this last 6 months, we've lost many ministries, we've lost much contact with each other, we've lost the ways that we normally have done church. And there is real sadness at that, and I think it's really important to acknowledge the loss that there has been and the loss that there is. And as we look back at normal times of 2019, that's a really important part of what we are called to do. But at the same time, I want to encourage you that actually there is great hope at this time too, as we look at the present and as we look forward. And I'm really certainly sensing that God is doing something really significant among us at this time, and that actually this is a really exciting time to be church. You might wonder why I am doing my annual review from a building site which is just around the corner from the vicarage. This is the Kinetic back entrance, where since January they've been demolishing the old Kinetic buildings and rebuilding and beginning to build the new housing estate that's going to be part of the St Andrew's Parish. Well, I wanted to come here because over these last 6 months God has spoken to me so much about us as a church through seeing what's going on at this building site. Initially it started by buildings being taken down and just watching the demolition happening. It was messy, it was noisy, you can still maybe hear the noise now. There was lots of dust, and it was a bit chaotic as we saw the buildings come down. And I know there was much sadness too. I've met many people at these gates here looking in who've told me, I used to work in those buildings and now they are no more. But actually, the exciting thing is that as they have come down, new things are being built. And new things are being built from the old. You see, the interesting thing about this is that they knocked all the buildings down, but none of the rubble has been taken away off site. None of the rubble has been thrown away. But what you might just be able to see behind me, and here's another picture of it, is that actually they've broken up all that rubble and made it into huge mounds. And those huge mounds are becoming the foundations for what is being built new here. They are becoming the foundations for the new houses that are being built. And I sense God really speak to me through that about the church, to say that actually in a time where we see ministries being stripped down, where we see the old ways of church going, where we see key people, as we're going to share in our APCMs, moving on and stepping back from leadership roles. Those people, those ministries, those ways of doing things aren't being thrown away as if that was the old stuff and now in with the new. But God spoke to me through this to say actually those people, those ministries, those old ways of doing things are now becoming the foundation in which He is building something new for this next season in. And not just that, but actually what's happening now is that actually in places they've begun to flatten the ground. So they've put the old rubble in there and they've flattened the ground, ready to build the new. And right at the top of the site, you can just begin to see the first show homes being built and the first layers of bricks going on. And for me, that's such a picture of where we are as a church at the moment. It feels like the old has just been flattened and taken to the ground. And actually God has left us with a blank canvas, so just a flat space on which he is now beginning to build. And what we are doing is we are seeing the first signs of what God is building on there. I think through the early bird service and through some of the new ministries that are coming out of the Octagon, we see some early signs of what God is wanting to build. And I want to tell you that it's exciting. The early bird service is fantastic to see young families coming and connecting in. Who knows what God's going to do with that? The ministries at the Octagon, God's taken us to new places. He's taken us to be in touch with new people, particularly young families. Who knows what God's going to do with that? And as we walk up the alleyway here, just up the side, up towards St Andrew's Road, as you go along, the fences have got sort of a Hessian fabric plastic sort of shielding in place. And so actually if you look at it, you can't see very much, but every so often there's a break in it and there's a hole. Here's a picture of it. And we can peer through the hole and see what's being built. And you know, I sense God is saying that that's a bit like what we can see at the moment. You know, we can't see into the future. I don't know how church is going to be in March, in 2021, in 2022 when we come out of this. I just don't know. But what God is doing is giving us a little glimpse of some of the things. It's as if we're beginning to look through some little tiny holes and seeing a little glimpse of what it might look like. But what it will finally look like is still so uncertain, and yet God will reveal that in his own time as he builds it. And there's another thing that I came across when I walked down here, is that there's a place here where they've built a temporary road, and there is one road sign there. And that road sign says "Give way." Here's a picture of it now. And I looked at that road sign yesterday, and God again spoke to me through that road sign, and there it is saying "Give way." And I felt God was saying to us, give way to him to come through and build the new stuff. That he's calling us just to get out onto the sidelines and to watch what he's building, rather than coming in with our own good ideas and building what we think might be right. But he's saying, give way to me, give way to my ways, give way to me to build in this place, in this community, something new for this new season, which I want to build. And that's the invitation that he gives each and every one of us, that I want to just encourage you to go and pray about, to go and continually commit to. We prayed around this site last Friday. We walked the whole way around it and committed it to God. Prayed for those people who will come and live in these houses. Who knows who God's going to bring here? And I want to encourage you more than anything in this season to pray that God would build what he wants to build, that we would get out of the way, that we would give way to him, the master builder, coming and building. And it reminds me of that verse from Psalm 127 that I want to leave us with. Unless the Lord builds the house, its builders labour in vain. Unless the Lord watches over the city, the watchmen stand guard in vain. Let us give way to just allowing God to come and do his new thing amongst us. Yes, there's sadness at what we're losing. Yes, there's sadness at things that may never come back to as they were. And that's right to feel that and to mark that. But God is doing a new thing. So let us not get in the way. Let us give way. Let him build what he wants to build. And let us to commit to joining in with him in being his kingdom people in this place. Thank you for journeying with us. Thank you for being part of an amazing church, amazing churches who are so open to change, who are so open to seeing what God is wanting to do. It's a real privilege to be part of you and to be part of God's work in this place. Let's go on together and let's just see this time next year, or at the APCM for 2021 in April, just what God is beginning to do and build. And he invites you and me to be part of it. God bless.